Hello and welcome to Dialogue. Less than a year after U.S. President Donald Trump was acquitted in a momentous Senate trial, America faces the possibility of a second impeachment in the remaining days of his presidency. What would a second impeachment mean for President Trump's future and the politics in America? How it might test the politics and accountability, and what will President-elect Joe Biden do to fix the divide? Well, to discuss these issues, I'm joined by N.R. Tangen, independent current affairs commentator, Joanna Chung, intercultural critic in New York, and Professor Joe F. Toker of the American Graduate School in Paris. And that is our topic. I'm Zhou Yue. So let me start with you, Einar. The Democrats' efforts to impeach President Trump for a second time, it has been gaining momentum over the weekend. Although we're not sure they will get enough Republican support behind this, but he's out of the office in 10 days. What's the point?
Well, there's a number of points. First off, what happened on Capitol Hill is resonating. I mean, remember, it's the same people who are in charge of pursuing this process, both the impeachment in the House and the trial in the Senate, who are directly involved. This is not something that happened somewhere else. This has happened to them. They were under siege for about 3 hours while the president stood by and did nothing, actually prevented the National Guard from coming to them after sending his crazed followers up to actually go out there. Then these people were yelling that they wanted to hang Mike Pence. They had physically attacked the office. This is something unheard of. The Capitol has not been overrun by anybody since 1814. This was a shock to the American psyche. So it will not pass things. But from a political purpose, obviously Pelosi wants to make sure that Republicans are on record. Do they support the country or do they support Donald Trump? And they're going to have to make a decision about that. Now, they're going to put it off. They're going to accuse him while he's in office. That's necessary. You can't have an impeachment after somebody has left. The impeachment, though, is the accusation. The trial itself can be afterwards. And that would do a lot to take away from Donald Trump his pension, his protection, I mean, physical protection, Secret Service. He gets an office, about $1 million a year and things. This would literally reduce him, and he would never be able to hold public office again. So this would be, from a political point of view, after 100 days, it would be probably introduced. Biden has signaled that he wants 100 days to get his team in place and to get his priorities passed. And then they can turn their attention to Donald Trump and what happened over these last few days.
Joanna, you think President Trump should be impeached with 10 days left for his office?
I'm afraid everything
I think that
just have been expressed may have been a good fantasy. Donald Trump should not be impeached. And if you think there is a reason, you tell me why why you want him to be impeached. There always should be a reason. We can talk about that. He has done a great job in the past 4 years, and we definitely want 4 more years. And I think it's very important for the American people to protect the American interest. When America does good, and the world will have security. And I'm shocked to see communism has taken over the globe. So I think we see America at its brink of destruction, and I'm very worried about the current political situation, and we have been out of tangent.
Joanna, can you hear me? I mean, this is incredible. I mean, I know you represent a point of view in that you believe that Donald Trump has been wonderful for the U.S., but if he's been so wonderful, why is China still, it has a higher surplus than when he started? Why is this wall not built? Why is American prestige even lower than it was before?
And there's also the constitutional crisis, according to the Democrats and even some Republicans, the president to incite some mobsters to storm the nation's top legislature. That is an impeachable offense, Joanna.
I think you are propelling a narrative that's may not represent the reality. The reality is it was a peaceful demonstration, and the mobs, the
Do we
so-called
have to? I
mobs,
mean, wait a
were
second.
actually
Peaceful
premeditated.
demonstration, you mean?
How is this a peaceful demonstration? We've seen this, Joanna. You're propelling a narrative that is completely false.
There are certain pre-planning that's being involved, and people think there might be involved.
What about the pictures? Are those false?
So actually, it
Are
is
you
a very
denying the
complicated
pictures?
situation. I think to be
This
very
is
fair,
ridiculous.
we need to wait until the investigation to go through before we actually make a definitive decision. Because in about 10 days, you will see the world will be changing, and you are sitting here thinking what might be happen according to your own will, but reality will prove you wrong.
Well, that's definitely a good example
actually,
of why America is divided right now. And Joav, you are European.
I totally agree.
How do you look at the storming of the Capitol and the possibility of impeachment of a president for the second time in the U.S.?
Well, I won't dare give
Are you talking to me?
advices to the United States per se, but I think that common sense and some historical perspective actually call upon something dramatic and exceptional to be done. The entire debate over what should be done and what may be happening over the coming days or weeks in regard to this horrible episode on Capitol is actually tilted between whatever is related to accountability. People have to pay a price for bad things they have done, right? And the urgent need for healing. And of course, you can touch upon.
But do you think President Trump should be held accountable for inciting the storming of the Capitol? Is that an impeachable offense? Our two other guests obviously don't agree on that.
I'm afraid the question itself it's very misleading.
He's not asking you. He's asking the professor.
Okay, Joav, you first answer this question, then I will ask Joanna why my question is not fair.
The question about impeachability in relation to what happened last Wednesday on Capitol Hill, of course it can. Don't forget that both the House of Representatives and later on if any trial in the Senate are not following strict judiciary and legal terms. We're speaking about a political operation which can very well divert from what would be the case if we were in a tribunal. So, of course, politics, but I would add a dimension here which is difficult to see right now, although it's on everybody's lips. This dimension would be, history. Namely, well beyond what we hear from politicians on both sides and commentators, etc., because I believe that the large majority of protagonists speaking about it and giving their opinions and advocating one way or the other are still one way or the other under the shock. Let them be supporters of President Trump or adversaries of President Trump. So we hear a lot of rhetoric which is under the sign of shock, sometimes actually panic. I'm having in mind mostly what we hear from Republican ranks, politicians and commentators. So, and we should not forget that impeachment, beyond its political fallouts, if ever an impeachment goes through, would have an historical meaning.
Yes, indeed.
And this does not seem to be extremely urgent right now as we speak, but it may become the real need of the American society and American public sphere and American political system at home and abroad.
I think you have a point there, but I still want to ask you, Joanne, why do you think my question is not fair? You don't think President Trump has done anything wrong in mobilizing his supporters to go to the Capitol?
Certainly no. Certainly no one's perfect. But regarding that particular incident on January 6th, and I think it's too early to tell that you use the word inciting. I think it's not objective, and I think we need to wait to see until the investigation. I would use about this riot is actually very multi-layered. It actually is a premeditated violence.
But he said on his Twitter,
I actually agree with
march on Capitol, show your support, and ask Vice President
peacefully.
Pence
White House
to
issued
revoke
a
the referendum
statement that they condemn violence. They really do. And just because violence happened and you just dump it all on the head of president, that's just not fair. What I'm trying to say is we have to wait for the investigation. I really do agree with Panga and you, Zori, that is America is really going downhill in terms of its own political cohesiveness, in terms of its divisiveness. That is why we need to make America great again. That is why we need Donald Trump to bring people together.
And,
I also agree
and
with
Joanna,
that China
there is
is
another
doing
reality
great.
is that the president is now lost his social media bullhorns. He has been ostracized by a lot of social media companies, which is the most powerful weapon probably in his presidency, arguably. So do you think that he has lost a lot of his power and relevance? Joanna?
If you're still asking me, I just want to tell you he is probably going to invoke the Insurrection Act and to crack down all these illegal activities. And I'm shocked that communism migrated itself from somewhere else to America. The First Amendment of the American people will not be taken away. All the big techs here are doing exactly what's wrong. And suppression is not in the DNA of American culture. It will never be. So wait until 10 days later, the world will be different. Do not make your judgment or prediction too soon. Let's see who is laughing the last.
NR? What do you say?
Excuse me, are we on Newsmax or Fox News? I don't understand. Why are we giving oxygen to some
we don't have to,
just
Well, obviously,
wacko point of view? I mean, she has absolutely, she is saying 50, you know, we have over 50 people who have been identified with various things. They've been wearing anti-Semitic T-shirts. They were all part of a rally which Donald Trump called for. They came in to Washington. Only one of these 50 was from Washington. They came from all over the United States. They caused havoc. They attacked the Capitol after he told them that Mike Pence is not standing up for me, all right? And what did they do? They went down there and said, hey, let's hang Mike Pence. Now, you tell me, if you don't think that he sent them there, and then why didn't he? Now, she says, well, we should wait for an investigation, all right? But what we have here is we have people in custody. We know what they have done. We can see it in the pictures. She obviously wants to push a narrative, just like Trump does, denying everything. Just tell enough lies.
Let him finish first, Joanna, please.
You tell enough lies and enough equivocations that you confuse the issue. You make it sound like some people say, you know, others have told me. This kind of nonsense. It really doesn't deserve it to be on television.
So, Joanne, the FBI has already conducting investigations into some of the mobsters. You don't think that is a valid investigation?
That is, no, listen, the Department of Defense has issued a statement that saying the demonstration was a peaceful one. But unfortunately,
the Department of Defense?
No, that's not true. Can you produce that? Who said it and when?
I was told about this. And
you were told. Somebody said, exactly.
Well, listen, you were told. Were you talking to President Trump himself? You were told by
I've been watching the news and the pictures. I believe what I see, not what somebody said.
Of course, we have to
let's leave it here. Joa, you want to cut in?
Yeah, well, you see, we have amongst us here in this discussion over 3 continents, we have an illustration of what not only last Wednesday on Capitol Hill, but 4 years of Donald Trump in the White House had produced. The entire world, then, in first place America, had been accustomed, so to speak, to a whole set of vocabulary, of lies, of conspiracy theories which is just flooding in continuity, with deviations of what we're talking about, with destructions of all kinds of nature.
You just listened to their talks. Obviously, Joanna and Einar believe in different sets of facts. That's why they made different judgments. And that's probably the case in most of America right now. They can't agree on the facts, so they draw different conclusions.
There's only one set of facts. There are different opinions.
Exactly.
They believe in different sets of facts.
You know, facts are actually very, it should be very objective.
I think the question was addressed to the professor.
Sadly, due to different ideology.
Yes, the question was addressed to the professor, not you.
Which is
Joe,
unfortunate.
I want
America is very different.
your opinion on
I'm
this.
sorry, facts. Yeah, I'm sorry. Facts are not submitted to ideological coloration, and don't understand, by the way, why communism all of a sudden had also something to do with the appreciation of what is happening. No, facts, this was, by the way, one of the earliest things the Trump administration had installed with no violence, but with deep meaning. Do you remember sort of few weeks after the inauguration of President Trump early in 2017, we heard for the first time the term of alternative reality.
That's when it started.
To what you seem to,
people don't believe in
as if
reality,
you take the facts,
but
you take
reality
the facts
and alternative reality.
Right. Well,
80 million Americans, do you think they are living in different reality? 80 million Americans.
No,
okay?
What's this 80 million?
There are then tens of millions of American voters.
You cannot discount
there are tens of millions of American voters who had
suppression
supported.
Should not play a role here.
Well, this is a very important question. I want both of you to answer. Einar, yes, President Trump still got 80 million votes, although
73.
Biden obviously won the election. It is being certified by Congress. But that means the political divide in America will remain. And the divide that we see here tonight between you and Joanna will further drag down the American politics. What you Americans can do about it? Einar, you first, and then wait, Joanna, wait until your turn, please.
My facts are based on what I can see and the reports that have been done. Joanna says that there's going to be something to be discovered later. She says things. First off, the 80 million did not vote for Donald Trump. It was 73. And Biden had another 6-7 million votes more than he did. But you are correct. America is divided. But for 44,000 votes in three key states, Donald Trump would probably have been the president of the United States. But you know what I'm talking about here is not just the fact that he incited a riot and insurrection, but that he has utterly failed the American people in every way, form, and shape. We have more disparity in incomes. We have more people in poverty. We have more problems. We have less international stature, and that is due to Donald Trump.
And Joanna, obviously the Republican has lost the presidency, the Senate, and the House. So politically, the Republican Party is being weakened. But how do you see Biden's administration will deal with the political divide?
Again, you're making an assumption. I'm afraid it's a little bit too early. You still have 10 days to go. You really have to wait until 10 days later.
You mean Biden wouldn't become the 46th president?
Although it was somewhat certified, but you still have to wait and see. All I'm asking you is to be open-minded.
You're suggesting that Donald Trump still has a chance.
Yes, I am saying that. You better be ready for that.
Can you show me the pathway?
And I think it may not be.
Can you show me the pathway? How?
I think you have done your research, and he may invoke the Insurrection Act, which happened 23 times in U.S. history. Insurrection Act is an act to protect American from a terrorist attack or natural disaster. And after he is exhausted all his legal means trying to defend the country, and
terror
he was shunned
attacks and natural disasters happening in the U.S. right now, you mean?
Natural disaster is not happening, but I think the certainly social disorder and chaos has been happening, and he may just take this approach. And if he take this approach, and things will be thrown out of balance of what you are projecting right now. All I'm saying is I hear your point of view, but we need to wait and see. Do not be so much in a hurry to jump into
President
conclusion,
Trump
particularly not
himself has
journalists.
said he will ensure a smooth and seamless transition to the next administration.
But you don't know who is the next administration. I tell you, I am a filmmaker and I write screenplay, and he is very
Obviously
good
fiction.
in playing with you and playing with the words. So I think that we're watching a huge Hollywood drama. In real life,
This person has
very
no
easy.
legal
So
basis.
I'm
This is
asking you
just
to
nonsense.
Okay, that's very
And
easy
it
because
will
in
be
10
very
days
shocking
we
to
will have an
everyone,
answer on that.
actually.
Okay, let's imagine if it is
yes.
it is Biden sworn in, what will be American politics look like? If you and Republicans still filibuster every policy of Biden, what will be the American politics be operating on? I'm more curious about
think,
that.
Okay, I trust Biden would strengthen the relationship between China and the United States. And I think he has always been in good relationship with China, actually maybe too good in some reason. We will go into a different discussion on that. But I think China is a great force to be reckoned with. And China has been really contributing great in the world platform economically. But Biden, I don't know what he would do, actually. No one really knows in his campaign, and he did not really campaign that much. We don't really know what his policy. Don't ask me. You should ask him. And we need to know that, whether he is the president or not. We would like to know his point of view. Unfortunately, he did not really come out and to campaign for American people.
And Joel,
is that fair?
What is... Many people say if Trump goes, Trumpism will not, and his brand politics will not. The supporters of Trump and the Republican Party will probably double down on over the past 4 years, and American politics will be more polarized. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a very important set of issues, well beyond one issue. And I'm sorry we got the conversation, got hijacked to some extent into not only fictional elements, but really irrational and unnecessary elements over the last few minutes. But let's concentrate on your question, Zhu. The 73 and more million American voters who had put a Trump vote in the polls are not all, attracted by the personality or the policies or the conduit of Donald Trump. There are tens of millions of American so-called conservative citizens who prefer, for one reason or the other, either the economic or the cultural aspects of what Donald Trump represents in comparison to what the Democratic Party represents. So we shouldn't look at 73, 74 million individuals in the United States of America taking after the example of the individual Donald Trump. Of course, luckily, of course. So things will be moving, and the impeachment element we have talked about at the beginning of the conversation may indeed add up to some of the elements which will make it easier for America to go through this healing process which is so necessary. It will not arrive next week. It will not arrive during the first 100 days of Joe Biden in the White House, but it will arrive. America had always surprised the world, the entire world, in its rapid capacity to get out of dangerous, perilous, and bad situations in favor of mea culpa, of large public debates, and with a rapid capability to take sort of, so to speak, correction on its way. It was true about McCarthyism in the 50s. It was true during and after the war in Vietnam in the 60s and 70s. It was even to some extent true regarding the recent American war in Iraq. America has this capability of leaving behind, looking at itself in a very critical way, spelling things out, handling debates, and overcoming those difficulties and those mistakes in a courageous and optimistic way. I think that this will be the case regarding the very sad experience of these last 4 years.
But I'm not sure about that. NR, what do you think? Will Biden try to reach out to the other side, or the politics will be as more poisonous as many people expected?
He's already tried to reach out, and actually this latest fiasco by Donald Trump has helped him, because it made given freedom to a lot of Republicans to repudiate somebody they didn't like in the first place. He didn't stand for republicanism. He created massive deficits. He was not for states' rights and things like that. He was on the conservative side, on the abortion side, appointing conservative judges that they liked. Mm-hmm. But at this point in things, now the key thing to look at is that Biden is not pressing for an end to filibusters in the Senate. But if after a few times, if there is these endless filibusters by people trying to hijack the stage, expect the Senate to vote to end the filibuster and for the Biden administration to go forward with their first 100-day plan.
And Joanna, do you expect Republican lawmakers will cooperate with Biden administration?
I think they probably will, because the Republican Party has been degenerating into something that's. I think they might, and I think the majority of them they might.
What are the policies that you think Republicans might make concessions and work with Biden?
I think my head is not exactly in that direction, so
but
therefore
probably your head should.
Forecast, I cannot. What did you say?
Probably your head should be thinking in that direction.
Yes, I'm actually open for possibility. If in case Mr. Biden become the president, which at this very moment he seems to be on the scene. So therefore, I will wholeheartedly hope America will work with China.
What policies do you think Republicans might work with Biden? On immigration, on COVID, on climate, on infrastructure? What are the issues?
I think on all of that, on security, I think they might work with the immigration, illegal immigration issue, and also national security issue, COVID issue particularly. But I'm not so sure the Republican Party itself, how it heals on its own. It just recently it becomes so disfranchised within itself that that's a disaster on its own. All I'm saying is you need to be open-minded in the next 10 days. This is my last warning. And after that, all will come into light.
We will keep our mind open.
Right now, it is too early to tell, although you don't want to hear me.
I get it.
But I'm giving you the forecast here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Joe, I have 1 minute left. What will this episode affect America's prestige and soft power in the world?
Oh, it will. It already had. The last 4 years have done so much. Last Wednesday had been the peak point of 4 years of small and big and at times corrupt type transgressions, and they all peaked as if it was sort of a sordid scenario during those horrible 3, 4, 5 hours on Capitol Hill, with this continuity of the scenario, with the president addressing his supporters,
we have to wrap up, Joel.
Movers, and the rest.
We have
so
to
it will
leave
mark
it there.
American history and world history.
This will be a very important watershed moment. Thank you very much, Joav, Joanna, and Anar. And you've been watching Dialogue here on CGTN. I'm Joe in Beijing. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.